This is the Depth Mystic Community Podcast, episode 32. And this week, I managed to record Jungian Depth Mystic Zach Tollen doing a rather long monologue with himself. And he was discussing the subject matter that we are trying to continue with our series on Carl Jung and the Book of Job and Jung's answer to Job. For this episode, I'm just going to play that monologue. Here we go. We're talking about the Book of Job. We're talking about Carl Jung's answer to Job. We're talking about monotheism. Do we need to have monotheism? We're talking about Jung's psychological alternative to pure tribal monotheism, where you have to believe in the external fact of the one true God. Whereas with Jung, there is an archetype of the self that can be discovered and confined in its analysis largely to personal psychological experience, which is good for anybody willing to reduce religion to psychology. And I think it can largely be reduced to psychology, although not entirely. Because monotheistic religion from the purely atheistic perspective is just absurd. Like, even if we take into account Carl Jung's psychology and acknowledge that the archetype of the self constitutes a primarily interior version of God that can be approached scientifically, it still doesn't overcome the fact that in traditional religion, that archetype is projected out onto the world, and you're supposed to take seriously the idea that the world itself has the general character of this particular archetype. Now, the self is a psychological experience. It can be experienced and recognized. And insofar as that is a valid interpretation of the religious symbols, then we enter into a world where is everything psychological? Is there nothing tribal? Is there nothing out in the world that religion actually speaks to? And if that's the case, then we have to look at the actual symbols and differentiate wherein they accurately reflect the Jungian archetype of the self, as opposed to specific cultural conditions that are not actually necessary to acknowledge in Jungian psychology. The religions, although they're not as powerful as they once were, they are still here. Therefore, there's no way that Jung's psychology, merely by existing, has been able to conquer the monotheisms quite yet. And that's to be expected. Religious systems that have been around for a long time aren't going to go away instantly. But what are we supposed to believe is really going on? Are we going to expect these religious systems to go away now that somebody has seen the psychological truth behind them? And from that perspective, it almost makes trivial the question of the nature of the one true God. You would say it's mere psychology. It's just a description of human psychology. And if you are able to get a sense of human psychology, get a sense of human nature, kind of like a doctor has a sense of the human body, then that's all there is to it. I now understand human nature, which is to say I understand the way consciousness works and the way the unconscious interacts with consciousness. The typical symbolic forms in which the unconscious interacts with consciousness. And that's it. It's just a piece of knowledge to learn. Sometimes you have to learn it through direct personal experience. But hypothetically, you could just learn it from a textbook. And if it is reduced to psychology, then how do we figure out what we ought to do? What is the meaning of life? Like, what should a person do? Like me, I mean, I call myself a mystic. I've had a profound mystical experience. I mean, that's my identity, is I'm a mystic, talking about Jungian mysticism, basically. And what identity should somebody like that have in the world? What should somebody like me do? What is the meaning of life? Are we adequately addressing the question of what is the meaning of life? You know, what is the meaning of my life? I mean, I have this ministry now. Most people that I know, they seem like they're in the grip of fear. They are in the grip of archetypes. Their minds have been captured. Their free reason has been captured by all manner of stories about the way things are. Basically, most people's minds have already been captured by some story, and they don't necessarily realize it. But what should I do about it? I can't necessarily free the average person's mind, because the stories that they're captured by are frequently very compelling. And certainly compelling to them. And so I find myself in the strange position of merely not being captured by any given archetype that I know of. But what is a person like me supposed to do? How can I help people grow? And then there's the whole question of monotheism. Jung, maybe his answer to Job essentially neutralized the compulsive nature of monotheism, so that it's no longer like a gunpoint religion. You have to believe our version of the truth or die, which it has been for a long time. Now, Christianity is arguably the best version of monotheism because it actually is willing to go to those places where it's asking the questions of what is the meaning of life? Why does God abandon his own people? But I am definitely thinking about who I can serve, what tribe I can join, what group I can serve. Because the existing religions, insofar as they don't recognize Jungian psychology, they don't recognize the psychological nature of what they call God, then it de-energizes the motivation. It drains the motivation for wanting to join them as a group. But the thing is, they still have a group as a result of their unconsciousness. Or we could call it a partial unconsciousness, since even the recognition of the Christian God does represent an increase of consciousness over the pagan gods. But I still don't know what I should do. I don't necessarily know the nature of my advanced consciousness, nor the specific group of people whom I should seek for an audience. Maybe that's what I should do above all things. I should want to know what is the nature of my specific revelation, my specific grand awareness with regard to the nature of the universe, and in contrast with other people who, generally speaking, don't have that same grand awareness. What is the nature of my grand awareness, and what group of people should I be trying to solicit, garner their attention or serve them, knowing that they will actually appreciate what I'm doing? I mean, I think most people could agree that I exist and that existence exists. I exist. The world exists. Society exists. Anti-society exists, which is to say all the people who don't fit into society, but nonetheless exist. I mean, if I see myself as a living organism, then the question is, how, as a living organism, should I promote my well-being and prosperity? If I use that as a basis for the meaning of life, well, I can belong to that group of things known as living organisms, and therefore I have the rights and duties associated with being that. And that's fine. That's a biological perspective. That's okay. It's one perspective. There are other perspectives. I'm a citizen of the country that I was born in, for example. And as a citizen, maybe I can serve my nation, and that can be good. I am a wise person. I've had profound mystical experiences. Therefore, I can serve all those people who yearn for the kind of mystical wisdom that I've actually attained. There's my mystical community, Ecclesia Spiritualis. There's a community of people who know. There's people who have seen and therefore know. And I count myself among them. But the difficulty is, what should I do? What should anybody in my situation do? Because you have a society. There is a village. There are the people among whom you exist, even though they haven't seen what I've seen. They're not part of the spiritual church that I belong to. But they are the pool of people that I can actually engage with. I think most people, especially in this society, would think that the right thing for me to do is to find those people most eager to gain from the wisdom that I have. Other than that, what is it about? I mean, I could reduce it to the carnal desires, which, if I had enough money, I could buy a girlfriend and children and security of different kinds and society somehow. Maybe if I've always thought that my lack of money largely prevents me from engaging in the more mundane aspirations of human beings. But if I were to live or die by my ability to fulfill those mundane things, my values might be oriented in a way that would make it even harder to achieve those things, ironically. I think the only way I can actually achieve even the mundane goals is to succeed on the spiritual level, like finding my spiritual church, And in large part, that means finding people who maybe haven't seen everything that I've seen, but nonetheless are able to, at some level, know that my presence benefits them. Whether they know it consciously or are just willing to obey their unconscious impulses to that effect. Does it even matter? I mean, it is nice to be acknowledged consciously, but I'd be perfectly happy if everybody just unconsciously benefited from my wisdom, because they would still be benefiting from the wisdom. And if I had such a church, if I already had everything that I wanted, a whole community of people who were engaged in the most efficient process of benefiting from the wisdom that I have, then I guess you just look out into the world and you just try to figure out what is there, and is there anything that is worth doing, and do you want anything? What would I want? And the thing that pops into my head would be to make a video game. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? Now, let's try to ask why. I mean, okay, you want to make a video game. Why do I want to make a video game? For the same reason good artists want to make art. And that is because they have a way that they look at the world. They have their own worldview. And art is a way of concretizing that worldview, is giving expression to what the artist believes about reality. But I could start articulating it even in my podcast. I could just start articulating what I believe about reality. And I guess I get sad when I think about this because I would prefer to belong to a community of people that were more passionate, that felt enlightened, basically, and that was therefore passionate about communicating that wisdom to the world, communicating that village communal energy or wisdom to the world. Like, I want to be part of a commune in a way, rather than to just be the lone author. Although I think with AI, it's actually pretty easy to make a video game. It's much easier now. Now it makes me interested in revisiting the woman in my dream who reinvigorated my sense of obligation to make the video game, to try to tap into what she was saying on the one hand, and my obedience, my subsequent obedience to that dream on the other hand, because the video game idea, I just don't know. Even the theme song to this podcast it's from the game, so it's not like I don't have some kind of seriousness. But I want to be part of a tribe. Like, when you turn on the game, I want you to feel like there is a commune out there that is enlightened enough to make this video game. Okay, that's it for episode 32. I hope you liked that monologue, and we will probably continue this series about monotheism, the Book of Job, and other things in the next episode. See you then.